This is the story of how a few determined Brisbane women established the first golf club in Australia to be run by women. What started off the idea of the ladies' golf club?
Well, I think the main thing was that the ladies had a very raw deal, you can put it, on most of the golf courses. We weren't allowed to play on Saturdays, and some days, which Sunday was our day, they'd have a men's only day and we'd have to go elsewhere looking for a game. And there weren't very many golf courses about. So every time we'd have a Christmas get-together, we'd say, oh, well, why don't we try and get our own golf course? But this was just an idea in the back of our minds, nothing definite at all. One day Hilda said to me, she said, well, we've talked about it for a long time, why don't we do something definite? So I said, well, what'll we do? Look for land. And we went around looking, but we couldn't find any land, which we had no money. This was in 1967 when we made these definite inquiries about land in 1967. Then, of course, Mr. Lightfoot had to approach Centenary Estates to see what they thought of it, and they weren't very keen, didn't think that ladies could do much about this. The club was actually formed in 1968 on the 28th of February. We had made several inquiries round about, and several people, particularly from other golf clubs as well as Ashgrove, said they'd help us, ladies, and we called a public meeting. And fortunately, we went to the City Hall. Who was there then? Clem Jones and his wife. Well, I'd been speaking to her previously, and she seemed to be in favour. So we had our public meeting in the Lady Mary's room at the City Hall. At that time, ladies didn't seem to have much money, did they?
No.
Not the ways you do hear about wealthy ladies today, but there weren't wealthy ladies then, and we certainly weren't wealthy ladies.
Far from it. I think before they did get any sort of decision, we were most of us investigated pretty thoroughly, weren't we, to see whether we were stable sort of people and whether it was a possibility or not.
Hilda Reid approached the Premier at the time, the late Mr. Nicklin, and she got him on side, and it was really through his good office, if you like, that we eventually got sufficient money. The SGIO, as it was then, now Suncorp, they were persuaded by Mr. Nicklin to come on side, and provided we gathered a sufficient amount of money in that first 12 months, then we could borrow from them the money required to build the first little clubhouse, which I think was about $45,000.
On the 20th of September 1968, a handing over ceremony was held on the grounds of the soon-to-be McLeod Country Golf Club. Mr. Peter Lightfoot, on behalf of Centenary Estates, exchanged the title deeds of the land for the sum of $1. This same $1 note, which was handed back by Centenary Estates, can now be seen hanging framed in the clubhouse. Did you receive any help at all from the media? How did they take to this idea to ladies forming a golf club?
Well, it was something interesting, but I mean, they were rather with their tongue in their cheek.
Sceptical.
Yes.
Yes. I don't think we got a lot of publicity in the early days.
No.
Until we actually got off the ground. Once we got off the ground, we got the publicity, but not in the early days. And in fact, we got very little help at all from anyone. Because if we did ask for help, monetary help, of course, it was what collateral did we have? We had nothing. We didn't have a thing. So, of course, we banks and insurance companies, places like that, just weren't interested in touching us. But it was interesting to, once we had started and established our 9 holes and had our first clubhouse built, and we went to the bank for a loan. I think actually they came to us, didn't they? Or we went to them, I don't know, but we had no trouble at all in getting our next loan that we needed.
And we haven't ever since.
No.
Centenary Estates, when they gave the land, they wanted it to be not particularly for ladies, because after all they're trying to sell the land and they didn't want ladies' name to be in it. And that is why we picked on or asked Gertrude McLeod if she would allow us to call it by her name. And she was sort of rather famous in Queensland golf, so that she was a little bit thrilled to be asked, and it suited us, and this Centenary Estates really liked the idea of having that name. Yes, in the olden days, before we had the clubhouse, we used to take it in turns to sit on the bank and watch the children while the mothers went out. It wasn't always successful, of course, because some ladies don't like having strange people looking after them, or little tots. But still, we got by.
We've always had wonderful support in the club from our members and our fellow members. And any time we have any work to be done or things that are needed, we find they rally around. We've got 2 wonderful club members at the moment who are looking after the gardening and organising the gardening, and we have a landscaper who has helped us with some of the landscaping work. And we also have men who are with brick companies and asphalt companies who are helping us around the place too. So this is the sort of thing that we have always found we've had help from our members and our fellow members in this regard.
Brisbane, January 1974. For 4 days, beginning on Australia Day, the city was virtually isolated from the rest of the nation by floods. 9,000 people were displaced from their homes as the waters of the Brisbane River swirled higher and higher.
It came 50 feet above mean sea level, which was about the top of that green there and round here, and it just at once came over that green there and round about to a tree over there. This clubhouse, the Tower Hill over there, and that was about all that went underwater.
Everything else was underwater. All the greens were covered in silt.
They were underwater, and all the land was underwater. But it wasn't swift flowing water, so that it all came up from the river, and it left all kinds of rubbish on the land, including some very good silt, really. But the cleaning up was a big problem. We didn't really lose anything very much at all in the flood. It was, if anything, I suppose you could say, was a little bit of assistance.
The original greens were put down on a shoestring, and by a firm that were not very experienced, as we weren't experienced, and quite a few mistakes were made, particularly in drainage. And we're gradually replacing all of the greens from couch grass to a grass that's called a 328 grass, which is a much finer grass, and it seems to be very successful and give a much truer surface. The professional holds approximately 6 clinics during the year, during the week, for ladies. He advertises around, and they from anything from 12 to 15 in each clinic. And these are either ladies who have come back to refresh their golfing skills or to start off completely new.
When I first started off as a club professional in Cairns, I worked for a club up there that had a mix of 4 ladies and 5 men. And when I didn't have any troubles up there, coming down to Brisbane, to McLeod, there wasn't any trouble either. I find that I do my job well, and there's really. The clinics we do for starters are very, very interesting. They can be frustrating at some times, but at the same time, it is great to see people that have never played golf before come out and start with you and then progress onwards from there. It gives you a real feeling of accomplishment.
Because the ladies here are the members, and they pay just a little more than the men. And this is a bit unusual. At most clubs, the men pay large sums and the ladies pay very little. Whereas our ladies here pay just a little bit more than the men. It would be the cheapest club for men players. Because of the help we get from everybody in the way of working bees and so on, and not only that, I think, everybody is a bit more interested in the club, and of course, ladies run things rather well. They look twice at every penny they spend. Don't spend pennies anymore, do we?
No, do not.
Shall we say every cent?